everyone, welcome to Bridges. I'm Rachel Markin, and today we have a very special show. We have a family with us. I'd like to welcome Mike, Michael, and Rosie Sluder. Welcome to Bridges.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah,
Thanks.
we're glad to have you here today. And really, you all have an amazing story of walking through what most parents would consider the unthinkable, and seeing God's grace throughout it. And then He's still working miracles today. So, Rosie, go ahead and tell us a little bit about what happened in 2010.
Well, it was in December,
Okay.
and I was sitting there in a chair. I remember exactly what I was reading, what I was wearing, what I was eating when I got the phone call from a hospital. And they asked, they said, "We have your son in here. There's something wrong. We're trying to figure out what it is." And my heart, I can remember my heart just speeding up,
Of course.
And they said, "There's something in his brain. We did a scan. We're not sure what it is. We're going to have him sent to Emory, which is in Atlanta."
Okay.
And I said, "Can I talk to him?" And so they put him on the phone, and he was speaking to me, but it was like he was speaking a foreign language. And I knew then that it was something pretty bad.
So he wasn't speaking in words.
No, it was gibberish. It was much like a foreign language.
Okay.
But I could tell he knew what he was saying. So I asked him to put the doctor back on, and I said, "Something is really wrong, absolutely." So, and I hung up, and I called my son Jordan and had him drive up and get me because I just had shoulder surgery. And Mike was on a trip, he was out of town.
Okay.
So Jordan came and got me, and we drove all night pretty much to Atlanta that night because there was an ice storm. And we got stuck on the interstate for 4 hours. So
My goodness.
that's how it all started.
Okay, so once you got to Atlanta, what did you find out had happened?
Well, they still hadn't diagnosed him. They just knew that there was something in his brain. They thought it was a brain tumor or a brain bruise. But they were running all sorts of tests. And I could tell when I saw Michael, he was in the bed, and I sat next to him and put my arm around him, and I just said, "Everything's going to be okay." He didn't say anything, and his eyes just kind of blinked, and really there was no recognition in his eyes of who I was.
And at this point, he's 24 years old.
24.
Has a successful career in logistics, and you're doing really well. So this was totally out of the blue. So what was the diagnosis?
HSV encephalitis, which is HSV is a form of, it's herpes, but it's like chicken pox, shingles, and it started with a fever blister in his mouth, which stress causes that. He was under a lot of stress, and they believe that the virus went through his optic nerve and settled in the brain. That's how they think it happened. And he was in his apartment alone that weekend, and he became so disoriented. He didn't know to drive his car to a hospital. His phone went dead. He wasn't answering texts. He didn't know to open the refrigerator. He just was by himself, very sick and very disoriented. So.
Absolutely. So, Mike, after you received the diagnosis, and you guys come to find out that Michael has lost all of his memories, what happened after that?
Well, when I got the word, I was in Dallas, and I remember the exact time as well. So I was sitting with a good friend of mine, and the call came, and of course, I was working as a director in a company there at the time, and we were discussing all this business stuff that we had going and looking forward to. And when I got the call, it was a voicemail from Rosie, and it was panicked, and she told me what had happened. And I just remember looking at my friend just hanging up the phone and saying, everything we were just talking about doesn't matter anymore. And I totally just forgot about it. And I knew I had to get to Atlanta. There was a lot of unknowns in the beginning. And we didn't have a real good diagnosis, and when we got a diagnosis, we'd never heard of it before. And this is a young 24-year-old, strapping, healthy young man. So this was a very uncommon thing to hit somebody like that. So we went from, well, okay, it's devastating, but it is treatable. So there was always good news, bad news. For a long time, there seemed to be a lot more bad than there was good. So we thought, well, maybe there's a little hope that it's treatable and that we can get him back, get him well, and we'll work through this. But as time went along, over the first few weeks, we were able to bring Michael home after about 10 days there, just in time for Christmas. And so we brought him home to Nashville, and we thought, well, he's going to improve and things were going to get better, but then things started to get worse. And we couldn't figure that out. And so we had him at home, but we were dealing with a lot of behaviors, a lot of stress. When somebody has something wrong in their brain, then you're just not yourself anymore. So we were dealing with something that just we weren't really equipped to handle. And so there was a lot of trying times. It's hard to describe to anybody unless you were there, the difficulties. We just knew our lives had changed, and we knew that it changed in a big way. And so we were all pulling together. We have another daughter and son, and so we were all pulling together to try to make Michael as comfortable as we could, and at the same time work with all the doctors. And one big thing that we learned in the beginning when you're dealing with a brain injury or brain insult is that the doctors don't have a lot of answers. There's a lot of questions without a lot of answers. There's a lot of, well, we're going to try this and we'll just wait and see what happens. So that's how we started. And on the ride back, Michael finally got to where he could speak a little bit, but his brain and memory was wiped clear like a hard drive in a computer. It was just wiped clean. So he did not know who we were. He, on the ride back, he could speak a little bit, which he actually lost that ability later on. But I had him in the car with me, and it was very difficult because he'd look at me and he'd go, hey, I know you're a pretty good guy and all, but could you just let me out up here because I want to go back. I want to go home. And you try to explain, well, Michael, I'm your dad and we are going home, but no, you're a pretty good guy and all, but just let me out up here. I want to get out. So that was kind of the beginning. And so, that's where we were when we came home. And he was having to learn to everything again, everything. So the way the doctors put it to us is like, Michael's going to have to grow up again. So that's where he started. He started from growing up again as far as learning. He had a lot to learn. And so we were his primary, along with the other members of our family and some friends. We were going to be the people to raise him again. So
that's amazing. Michael, do you remember any of when you were sick? And
being in hospitals, rehabs? No.
Yeah. Why do you think that you survived through this illness?
I got a lot of answers to that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
My team.
Your family.
That's basically what I could say.
I understand. And one thing that really touched me, we have some video of you all working together. Michael's writing down sentences that we're going to show. Is the amount of grace that you all have for each other.
Policeman ran after the thief.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Where did that grace come from?
Well, God definitely had a hand in this as far as I still have goosebumps when I tell this story, but the way Michael was found was he was in his apartment for like 6 days without anybody, any contact with anybody else. But he had a good friend that was in the same apartment complex with him, and Michael hadn't shown up for work, and it happened for a couple of days in a row, and this friend had gone by his apartment, but the door was locked, so he was just going, well, I'm not sure, I don't know what's going on. But then it got to be Wednesday, and this friend said he had made himself a sandwich. And he was picking up the sandwich to take a bite, and he said, somebody said, go check on Michael. And he did. He said he put the sandwich down, and he walked over to the apartment complex manager, and he said, let me in that apartment. And that's where they found him. And Michael he said he was sitting on the edge of the bed. He was just dressed in his underwear, covered in, just bad stuff, and he was just not in his mind there. And he was probably about a day from going into a coma, which is certain death. So I feel like that's the first time God really intervened and said,
Amen.
Absolutely.
no, Michael, we're not letting you go.
Right.
We have a purpose for
We've
you.
got plans for you. And so I have a hard time telling that story.
Yeah.
But for me, that was just the first of it. And, we each have our own personal stories about my relationship with God at that time and how it changed. Because at first you're I had some angry moments.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm like, why? And so personally, I just felt some areas so deep inside of me that I never knew existed. And I mean, when something like this happens, it just goes to your very core of who you are. And so it's almost frightening in some ways, because you don't realize how deep your love is for somebody like that until something like that happens. And I think at the same time, the same thing with God. You've got to come to peace with that. You've got to come to peace with, why is this happening? And then accept the fact that, Mike, I'm not making this happen. I'm actually here for you to help you get through it.
Amen. Absolutely.
And once you come to that realization, then you can move on, But it took a little while for me to work that out.
Yeah. And Michael is doing so well
He
today.
is.
Tell me about what a day in the life is like for Michael.
Well, for me, myself, I mean, it's hard for me to focus on the negative things that happened in the past because I don't remember. I'm just doing what I am now, basically.
Yeah.
That'd be good for a lot of people if they're having bad things going on with their life.
Amen. And you drive yourself around. And
Well, GPS.
yeah. Well, I
Without-
use a GPS too. I'm telling
I'd be
you.
surprised if someone couldn't. If they're going to a house and they just need to remember exactly how to get there, if someone tells them no.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us in the studio. Our time is up, but I don't want you guys to go anywhere because we're going to join the entire Sluder family at their house. We'll be right back after this.
If you would like to contact WHTN, you can write to the address on the screen or call us at 615-754-0039 or visit us on the web at www.ctntv.org.
My family is sweet, I call them super. Together we make the clan of Sluder.
A virus erased all 24 years of memories from Michael Sluder in 2010. But there are many qualities even a severe brain assault could not take from the now 28-year-old.
The best thing about Michael is his just steadfast and intense love for his family.
He still is extraordinarily charismatic. We go to the grocery store, the mall, wherever, and he's made several friends before we leave. Whether they want to talk to him or not, he's going to start that conversation. They're going to be buddies.
It's like Jordan said and Lauren said, and we walk out of there and everybody knows Michael, and they just feel better about themselves from being around me.
People go days without friendly conversation with people, especially if they don't know them. So it makes me happy when I'm talking to people, and makes them happy too.
The virus encephalitis struck Michael's brain twice, taking his memories, speaking abilities, and understanding of basic life skills. His parents struggled to care for him at home. It was then Michael's sister, Lauren, says she saw her parents needed help. She resigned from her job as a children's minister to help her brother relearn life skills.
Michael and I had a great time. We spent about 10 months, and our relationship during that time, it was great, but it was also very much a brother-sister. There's a few times where we got in fights, and I had to call Mom and say, he is not listening to me. He does not want to get in the car with me, or whatever. He'd push back, but we did a lot of kind of therapy. We would go to the library and he would look up different titles because we were, practicing reading. We would go to the grocery store and I would make a list of 5 things for him to buy with pictures next to them, and he would have to locate them in the store. So just kind of homegrown therapy to try to relearn life skills, and that was really fun. After about 10 months of that, he was doing much better.
Michael continues to improve. His mother, Rosie, says her son is defying the odds.
With the 2 forms of encephalitis he was diagnosed with back-to-back, that's never been diagnosed in this country, and how ill he was, where he was lying in a hospital bed for like 7 weeks and couldn't speak, couldn't walk, couldn't talk, to this now, today, and him regaining his vocabulary and the independence he has. That's a miracle to me. It's a miracle that he lived, because he was alone so very long, and most people would have died, and here's the other thing. A lot of people who have a brain injury suffer from anger, severe depression, and substance abuse, and he doesn't have any of that. So, and that part of it's a miracle too.
In 2013, the family decided to open a business called Comfort Care, which provides non-medical care to those with conditions like Alzheimer's. Michael enjoys working with his family.
Yeah, it's all different. Like if someone needs me to take them somewhere, I need to go and do this. They write a list for me and I'll go and bring it to this person, stuff like that.
Rosie says her youngest son's remarkable healing has been a family effort.
A lot of families fall apart in the time of crisis, and our family was amazing. We pulled together, and I believe that's one reason Michael's come so far. And it never ends. It's consistent. It goes on and on and on, and I think it's brought us all closer together. Even though before we were a close family, but I think the bond is even closer.
Michael's older brother, Jordan, says his brother and him are close.
Michael's my best friend. Has been since he was probably 16, I think. Because before that he was the little brother, but there was a big enough age difference to where we didn't really hang out. But around the time he turned 16, we started spending more time together, and that grew as we both became adults throughout our teenage years. And actually right before he got sick, he was about to start a new job up the road from me and was going to move in with me. And we were going to live together at the townhouse that I live in. And we were both really excited about it. We were both in our mid to late 20s at the time, and we were really excited. And that was actually the week he was supposed to move, was the same week that he got sick. But he's still my best friend. Michael's the same and different, which at times has been hard for me to accept, especially at the beginning. because I'll look at him and, talk to him, and it's the same Michael, but we don't have that same pool of memories that we can draw from and laugh about and talk about, so we have to make new ones. So in a way, we're starting from scratch, but even if he doesn't recall those memories, we still have that foundation underneath the surface that's more emotion-based that we can both draw from, I think.
The Sluder family says the road to healing has not been easy or simple. Each of them have had to find peace and understanding in a situation that is rare and can feel unfair.
You can't take your family for granted. Michael and I were always really close, but for instance, I didn't have much of a relationship with Lauren. It wasn't that, we had a bad relationship, we just didn't spend a lot of time together or talk that much, and I like to feel that we've improved in that regard. But it really is just that your health, your family, you just can't take things for granted, because this was totally unexpected. I mean, it seems so bizarre and random, and my worst fear always was something bad happening to Michael. And you know what, anything is possible, so we are only given a certain amount of time, in life, and you just don't want to take certain things for granted, be it family, be it your health, because you don't know how things can change in a moment.
And there were so many ups and downs, actually mostly downs with his journey, setbacks after setbacks and different rehabs and injuries. I definitely, I had some anger, and for a long time I would say, why Michael, God, why Michael? He was very easy to raise, and it never caused us any worry, or he didn't any worry or problems. They affectionately call him the golden boy. They named him that.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So he was getting any
Yes.
He didn't get caught.
He didn't get caught.
Yeah. My perspective changed from, why, God, did you allow this to happen, to, oh, the reason Michael's lived is because God wanted him to live. So my perspective changed from blame to thank you. It's been a couple years ago. We were sitting on the porch. I was feeling sad about what happened to him, and he could tell. And he asked me, Mom, what's wrong? And I was honest. I said, I am so sad about what happened to you. And he sat there and he thought for just a few seconds, and he said, well, you know what, Mom? That was in the past. All we have is today. We may not even have the future. We have today right now. We have a good family. We have a good business, and I'm good with that, so don't feel sad. And that amazed me. That insight really amazed me.
Lauren says Michael's outspoken and strong faith in God has been a surprising change since his illness.
He came home first from rehab and started to interact with some of his old friends, most of whom, did not go to church, and that was not a big focus of their lives. I remember him telling one in particular, Sluders are God lovers, we're God lovers. And they kind of looked at him like, what? And he was like, that's right, that's how we are, and that's what we do, and we love God, and he made us. And I just remember being like, wow, that's not something I have ever imagined that I would hear him say. And he was, very straightforward about it. So much of it was built around family, and that is, such a part of our family. And so he adopted it, but at a certain point, it wasn't just, we're gonna all go to church. It became something real to him and something that he really enjoyed being a part of.
Lauren says people would frequently quote Romans 8:28 to her family, a scripture that says God works all things for our good. She says despite her faith, the scripture became something she had to work to understand.
It took me a long time to recognize that, okay, if it's true, and God does work all those things for our good, and there has to be a positive, I realized that the positive is eternal. It's eternity. And so for Michael, If he had died prior to December 10th, 2010, I'm not sure where he would have spent eternity. But I know that if he dies tonight in his sleep, that he will absolutely be in heaven. Our lives here on earth are only so long. We don't know how long we have. Eternity is what really matters. And so, to me, that's what the good thing is that we can pull out of this.
There are parts of Michael's life that are gone, but loss is not the theme of Michael's story. His raps, hip-hop songs that he has memorized show his insight into what has happened to him and his love for what matters most in life.
Have you met me? Because my name is Michael. I am a good guy. Years ago, I almost died. A virus I'm told called encephalitis. It really put me down when it settled on my brain. You know, I could have died. It caused a lot of pain. I'm a fighter, stubborn too. I didn't give up. I made it through. People prayed for me because they care, and I'm getting better now, but not quite there. I want to be back like I was before, but it will take time for me to soar. I need my family, my great friends too. I need you. Who was I pointing at?
God.
Michael's father, Mike Sluder, says he hopes to see his son get married and live a wonderful life. The Sluder family is a true testament to 1 Corinthians 13:8, love never fails. Maybe today you're walking through a storm of your own. Maybe it's a divorce, or you have a relationship with a child that's been turned upside down. Or maybe you've been given a diagnosis about an illness and you're scared. Whatever you're walking through today, you can trust and lean into Jesus Christ. And He will give you strength, grace, and mercy each moment of every day. Thank you for watching Bridges. Goodbye, and God bless.
You can purchase a copy of today's show for $15. Call us at 615-754-0039 or send a check to the address on the screen. Please mention the program number on the screen.
For more information on a guest, visit our website, ctntv.org.
Log on to www.ctntv.org, where you can make a prayer request, view our program guide, see who's on Bridges, or even watch one of Monica's latest teachings. Log on to www.ctntv.org.
The blood of Christ is the only cure. It gets down to the root of every single thing that ails us. There's not an addiction, there's not a generational curse, there's not any root of sin, there's nothing that the blood of Jesus cannot cleanse.
Visit monicaschmelter.com to schedule Monica to speak at your event.
Join the Bridges community on Facebook. Visit Facebook and search for Bridges with Monica. We would love to connect with you.